This over 20 years of democracy hasn't delivered to people in terms of bread and butter, in terms of improvement in their material conditions. And therefore, what they were looking for in democracy has not happened.
If people come around to registration centers and are unable to register on time, the likelihood is that they will pass the same message to those at home. It took me 3 hours before I was able to register. Naturally, without blinking, you have denied only God knows how many other persons that will not be coming again.
Community discouragement.
Discourage the people from doing it.
All this tells you that it is not sensible to have a democracy and have all these development challenges.
So I have an obligation as an administrator to ensure that I make the process simple, make it friendly from the point of admitting a prospective registrant, the way you even welcome them. And when there are issues, which do happen, technological issues do happen, to be able to explain to them so that they will understand that, okay, it's the temporary thing and we are going to get around it.
Something must be wrong with the nature of that democracy. It means then that this democracy is not structured, is not framed to deliver development.
This podcast is brought to you by the Volume Pod in association with the Cable NG, Albarka Radio, 97.5 FM, and Diazu Development.
Many thanks for keeping up with us. We are super grateful. We remain at this very wonderful PAACA event where we are talking about the future of democracy and yes, sustaining democratic growth as we need it in Nigeria. Joining me now is the Nasarawa Rec, Alhaji Shehu El Wahab. Thank you so much for coming on at this very point in time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah. There's a lot of reforms that even within INEC is going on. What are some of those reforms at the rec level that you're looking at in Nasarawa State when it comes to elections as we build up towards 2027 elections from your end, sir?
Okay, thank you. I think the job of an electoral commission, and especially for those of us that are administrators, is basically to ensure that we are able to operationalize the provisions of the law as far as making the conduct of elections a lot better. And within the ambit of the law, what I do as an administrator is to carry out those measures that makes it possible for eligible Nigerians to be able to participate, starting with voter registration. I am expected, and that much we are doing now, to ensure that we provide the platform by which ordinary citizens are able to have the right to put their name on the register if it's never there before, to ensure that they are able to make corrections if they so need, include those that want to transfer, to do everything that is humanly possible to make the process seamless. Because there is a sense in which an easy-to-do activity is an incentive for people to do it. If people come around to registration centers and are unable to register on time, the likelihood is that they will pass the same message to those at home. It took me 3 hours before I was able to register. Naturally, without blinking, you have denied only God knows how many other persons that will not be coming again.
Community discouragement.
Discourage the people from doing it. So I have an obligation as an administrator to ensure that I make the process simple, make it friendly from the point of admitting a prospective registrant, the way you even welcome them. And when there are issues, which do happen, technological issues do happen, to be able to explain to them so that they will understand that, okay, it's the temporary thing and we are going to get around it. So that's as far as registration is concerned. And come up with advocacy that encourage people to come out. For this CVR that is going on, we have had to commit so much effort in speaking to the people to come out, getting them to know that the process is simple, letting them know that it is free, and ensuring that we are able to meet up with our commitment. That's as far as the registration is concerned. And when it goes into election, Nasarawa happens to be the terrain is challenging, though 13 local governments, but the terrain is quite challenging. And my job will be to look at history. What are those locations where elections are unable to start on time? What do I have to do to ensure that we do it differently? So that if at 8:30, poll is supposed to start with the first voter being able to vote, then we should be able to do that. A lot of work is going on that. to ensure that between now and the time we'll be ready for election, we are able to come up with additional measures because these are practical, inclusive activities that we need to do. The law is there. We need to ensure inclusivity. How do we practically ensure inclusivity? It is by coming up with practical measures and activities that truly makes the process inviting. And that much we intend to do. With regards to party primaries, it's an activity of political party, but the commission has a lot of role to play. Our job will be to ensure that we let the political parties live to their bidding. The provisions of their own guideline for party primaries, we have an obligation to ensure that they live by it and that the true winner of their primary is the result that we also support as a commission. That is some of the things that I am looking at as far as making the election more inclusive.
And the leadership of INEC recently we had the new leader in INEC. And I'm sure you've had your chance to meet with him. He has provided some of his own immediate mandate on things to do. What are some of the things Nigerians should look forward to from INEC as a body, especially under the new leadership?
No, I think the first thing, and that will be of interest to the new leadership. One, to consolidate on all the things that INEC has achieved over the years. All the positives that we've been able to build since 1999 to date, consolidate and make them seamless. All the areas of complaints, we should by now be doing away with them so that it becomes pastime and then try to break new grounds. Break new grounds. Now, the Anambra election for the new chairman provide the beginning of what to expect. And I think from the reports I've gotten from the election, we are coping and we are doing better as far as trying to make the election easier, making our technology work better. The mandate of the new chairman, will basically be to ensure that he joined the force and lead the team to ensure that INEC live by the provisions of the law in a manner that Nigerians respect the institutions and Nigeria will respect the outcome of our electoral activities.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your time. We're so grateful. We've been speaking with the REC Nasarawa State, Alhaji Shehu El Wahab. My next guest is Professor Sam Egwu. He is the former REC in Benue State. Yes, at the time, Benue REC, I beg to say.
I'm sitting as REC.
Yes, sitting as REC, I beg to say. Apologies for that. Okay. It's good to have you on today as much as we can. Just to also follow through with, you've had a long career in the election space and what it entails to build Nigeria. Yet some things continue to be some of the fundamental challenges we face as we try to build our electoral body and our electoral process. Do you mind sharing some of those insights with us as you highlighted in your paper during the earlier conversation?
Well, one of the important points I was raising is that if we go back to the 1980s and the 1990s, when Nigerians came out of their trenches to fight for democracy and to force the military to go back to the barracks, two important developments were on ground. One of them was that there was a very massive economic crisis. Price of oil had collapsed in the global market. Industries were collapsing because we also did experiment by, deregulating our currency, which increased the cost of importing raw materials and therefore destroyed the possibility of domestic production. And people suffered. At the same time they were suffering, the World Bank and the IMF insisted that the answer to all those problems will be to implement structural adjustment program. And there were key elements of this structural adjustment program: devaluation of currency, removal of subsidy, pegging wages, or even lowering wages. And we knew all these things increase the level of hardship. And in the context of these twin challenges, people fought for democracy. My interpretation of this, whether it's a coincidence or not, is that the struggle for democracy was actually a struggle to improve the living conditions of the people. Luckily, in 1999, we forced the military to leave to the barracks. And since then, we've had 7 successive general elections, some credible instances leading to alternation of power at the national level. But on the whole, these over 20 years of democracy hasn't delivered to people in terms of bread and butter, in terms of improvement in their material conditions. And therefore, what they were looking for in democracy has not happened. And you can see the abysmal record of human development that we have in this country, which tells you about the level of the crisis of human security. You know, whether you are talking about levels of poverty, absolute, relative, and far Nigeria becoming the poverty capital of the world, whether you are talking about human development index, which the UNDP regularly undertakes, whether you are talking about the fragile state index that tells you about the level of fragility and lack of coherence among the different socioeconomic aggregates in this country, and therefore insecurity all over the place. All this tells you that it is not sensible to have a democracy and have all these development challenges. Something must be wrong with the nature of that democracy. It means then that this democracy is not structured, is not framed to deliver development. If anything, this democracy is a project of the global financial institutions that have become very hegemonic, the World Bank and the IMF, and they insist that you must follow the path of liberal democracy. And they are interested in liberal democracy because it's a framework for implementing market reforms, which is at the expense of the people. And that is the point I was making, that yes, we can celebrate democracy, but we should also mourn the fact that it has not translated into development. But that at the end of the day, we need to begin to interrogate this type of democracy that doesn't deliver development to the people.
Fantastic answer, sir. Just now to interrogate, this is 2025, and we are the eve of another major election. Everybody talks about what the politician wants, what the sitting government wants, but then the next part of the question that has always remained is, do you think there's something different from all that has fundamentally been set out that the citizens now want from this next election as part of the things that will make things different?
You know, at the broader level of democratic reform, the citizens of this country, represented by civil society, has been very consistent in engaging the Nigerian state and the democratic project. Apart from the fact that their struggle ushered in democracy, there are so many sites that civil society groups have worked in terms of monitoring budgets, in terms of monitoring election, in terms of propagating for electoral reform. But the challenge is that the actors in the electoral process, and I think it's Dr. Hussein Abdul that said there is incompatibility between the values held by those people and the values of a democratic society. We move to the next election, which is about 2 years away, and all the signs are telling you that the level of competitiveness of that election will diminish. Every indicator points to the fact that because Nigerian leaders or elected leaders are not doing what is right, they are afraid of losing power and the government in power taking them to the cleaners. So all of them are moving to the ruling party. We've seen this. Whether it is open, whether it is subtle, it's not healthy for democracy. You know, because at the end of the day, the health of a democracy is measured by the level of institutionalization of the party system. So if you have a party system, you know, that is weak, riddled with internal crisis, and therefore not formidable platform for selecting candidates for election purposes in a free and fair manner, and then going into election to engage in self-help. I think for me, the where we are going doesn't suggest that we may consolidate this democracy, and it could be worse than the past.
Thank you so much, Professor Sam Egwu, for sharing that with us. That was quite detailed as much as you could. Is the Benue rec. Thank you, sir.